I've got a little question concerning the zombie creature, of course. The first one is zombie is a tool, in fact, to spread a broadcast message about the fear of people and to criticize society. Which aspect do you love about the zombie creature?
Well, I think that there are genuine opportunities to use zombies as social metaphors. But first, there's a real fear. There is, for me personally, there was a genuine fear of zombies growing up. So I didn't actually start to write about zombies in order to create a social message. Initially, I started writing them because I really was just scared as a kid, and I thought, how would I really survive? As I started to write about them, I realized that there was great opportunities to talk about broader issues, larger issues. And so that came through the process of the writing. For example, as I started to write Zombie Survival Guide, I started to realize that everything involved in zombie survival is everything you would need in true disaster preparedness. That there was nothing zombie-specific about zombie survival. And I thought, this is a great way to learn how to prepare for, say, an earthquake through zombies. And it was later, through World War Z, that I realized that there was so much more I wanted to tell. So I hope that answers your question.
Speaking of the survival guide, how would you survive right here in the Utopiales in North?
Down there?
Yeah, what would be?
I wouldn't go down there. I stay up here with you guys.
Okay.
I've got water, and if I have the water, I have the power, so therefore I would bargain the water for food for some of you. We'd have to find out who was the best in hand-to-hand combat. I think it'd probably be her. So she'd be the first one. We'd board up the door, and we'd have to find a way to get from here to over there. But we certainly wouldn't go on the floor. That's where the danger is. We'd board up the stairs. Okay. So any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about current zombie media and products. There is a lot.
There's a lot.
Too much, in fact. What movies you agree with? Which one you didn't like at all concerning zombie, Walking Dead? I don't know, In the Flesh, if you know the series.
Oh yeah. You know, I don't agree or disagree with anybody else's zombie projects. I think everyone can contribute. I think that there are those that I personally might not be interested in, but that's, as we say, my cup of tea. It doesn't mean that one is bad or good. I think that Shaun of the Dead is probably one of the best zombie movies, one of the best movies, certainly of the last 20 to 30 years. I think the social commentary is very deep and very powerful. I think a lot of people are doing zombie projects that would not have otherwise if zombies weren't popular. And obviously, the downside of that is they're just trying to make money, and their stuff isn't particularly very deep or very profound. But the advantage is you're starting to get very intelligent people writing about zombies who wouldn't have. In the United States, we have a professor, Daniel Dresner, who teaches international relations. And he was trying to get his students to be interested in international relations. And he thought, what if I wrote a zombie book, which would get them interested, at the same time teach them about dealing with other countries, which in the United States I think we could use a lot more of. We also have Dr. Stephen Schlossman, who is a child psychiatrist at Harvard. He's writing about zombies now. And he wrote a book called Zombie Autopsies, which really describes how the brain works. So I think you have all these advantages now. For example, the Center for Disease Control in the United States. I think that's the coup de grace, because in my country, it's always been a problem. How do you prepare citizens for disasters? Because psychologically, most people don't want to deal with that. If you have the American government saying, here's what you do, most people go, scary. Scary, scary, don't want to deal with it. But if you say, hey kids, let's talk about your zombie plan, you then get young people talking about bottled water, first aid, a radio, everything you would need for a real quarantine. So I think the popularity of zombies has a tremendous potential to do a good service.
There are also some kind of medical exercise about zombie pandemic and all that stuff to help hospitals to organize and fight.
I think exactly. I think that's great. I mean, I think that of course you're going to have people who are just in it to make money. You're just going to have the people jumping on the bandwagon, so as we say in my country, and that's fine. That happens in every trend, and as long as they don't do any harm. As long as Mel Gibson doesn't write a zombie book, and we all know who he's really talking about, I think it's fine.
And what about The Walking Dead? Because George Romero told yesterday that it's just like a soap opera.
Yeah, I just read that. The truth is, George Romero called it a soap opera, and everybody's getting angry, but I don't see why people are getting upset, because that's, as far as I know, isn't that what Robert Kirkman, the creator, called it too? Didn't he just call it a soap opera? So it is. So what's wrong with that? See, maybe it is just a soap opera, but I don't see what's bad about that. Why can't there be a zombie soap opera? Because the truth is, most people, that's what they like. Most individuals like human stories about who's in love with who, and who's having an affair, and who's your enemy, and that's just good storytelling. And if people like that, I don't see the problem with it. I wish I could write that. That's just not where my brain goes. Believe me, if I could do things like that, I might. But that's just not how I think. I think if someone put a gun to my head and said, write a soap opera, I would say, you're going to have to shoot me. So I don't criticize Walking Dead for being a soap opera. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. My criticism specifically is with AMC for firing Frank Darabont. That's my issue. Not with the show, not with the comic book, not with the TV show, with the politics behind the show. Because in my country, not many people read comic books, percentage-wise. The percentage of the American people just don't read comic books. So then Frank Darabont, who gave us Shawshank Redemption, took this comic book, which was wonderful, a wonderful, brilliant comic book, and then he made it a TV show, and he brought it into the mainstream culture, which I thought was an amazing achievement. Because Frank Darabont had been working in television for some time. He brought his production staff, he brought his writing staff, he brought his cast, he put them all together. And he made a show that might otherwise have not gone. And as a reward, they fired him. AMC let him go. I thought that was unconscionable. And I think in many ways that happens in history and in politics all the time. Many times the hero is the first one to get the guillotine. For example, you saw it after the Second World War when Marshal Zhukov, who essentially won the war in the East, was then exiled to Siberia by Stalin because Stalin didn't want an extra hero. I don't know why AMC did it for Frank. Maybe they didn't want another hero. Maybe they didn't want, maybe another Matthew Weiner or Vince Gilligan. Maybe they didn't want another auteur fighting for the integrity of their show. But for whatever reason, I think that's unforgivable. I think that Walking Dead, it's one of the most popular shows in America right now, and Frank Darabont should be one of the most celebrated, popular directors because of that. So I can't forgive AMC.
And on the series, especially, what's your point of view? Do you enjoy the series at all?
I don't watch it anymore. Not after season 1. Not after they fired Frank. I loved the first season. I thought the first season was unbelievable. Finally, there was a TV show for me. But when I heard they had fired Frank, check please, table 1.
Maybe can we talk about the whole movie adaptation?
Oh, you mean the movie that has the same title as my book?
Yeah.
Yes. We can talk about it.
What do you think about the movie? Really?
What do I really think about it? I think it was a fun summer blockbuster. That just happened to have the same title as my book. This may be difficult to understand, and I get that, but when you are an author, and when you go to see the adaptation of your movie, your book, and you see that the characters would say things that you wouldn't have them say, and do things that you wouldn't have them do, and when the story is changed just so much that it's still your story, but it goes in a slightly different direction, that can be mental torture for an author. That's when you can tear your hair out. I didn't have that when I saw the movie. You know why? Because my characters weren't in it. And I didn't mind that they messed with the story. You know why? They didn't mess with the story. They ignored it. My story wasn't in it. So I didn't have to watch my story and my characters be mangled because nothing was in it. I literally was just watching somebody else's movie. So in a way that was easier than having it be closer, but not close enough. I don't know if that makes sense. You know, someone like Stephen King, when he watches The Shining, there are his characters, but they're not doing what they should be doing. And there's his story, but it's not going where it should be going. And I can see how he would tear his hair out. I didn't have that. In fact, the only character that made it into the movie was the Israeli counterintelligence expert, and he was actually accurate. But everything else was just made up by them. I like to joke that I don't have my, hey, Jerry Lane would never say that moment, because I didn't invent Jerry Lane. As far as I'm concerned, Jerry Lane can make all the pancakes he wants.
Still, you want to make a sequel. Do you have any information about it?
Oh, you probably have more than I do. I don't know. I mean, I would guess, given the phenomenal financial success of the movie, that it would just make sense for them to make a sequel. Because that's their business. They're in the business of making hit movies, and if you make a hit movie, you want to make another one. I think the movie made something like over $500 million, I think.
I think it's 400.
Oh God, no. No. It was, the last time I checked, it was 5.5 and still going. And now they're really making their money because now it's on digital download, which is free money. They don't have to pay for any, costs or distribution. I mean, it's just coming in. So I assume they will make a sequel. Good luck to them.
How can you explain that huge success?
Oh, how can I explain the huge success? How can you not explain the huge success? There's Brad Pitt, and he's beautiful, and he's making pancakes for his kids, and he's saving the world, and he's flying around the world, and he's checking in with his wife. Now, I don't know how you feel about that in this country, but in my country, wow, that goes a long way with middle-aged women, where you're on the plane and just, hi, honey, how was your day? South Korea didn't work out so well. You'll be okay. I know, thank you. Wow. If that doesn't tap into the ultimate fantasy of older married people in my country, please. And, I mean, look, and then he had the beautiful Israeli soldier. Now, they were very smart because he didn't have an affair with her. Instead, he was much more paternal to her. He was much more protective. There was a father issue there. What a great market. I thought they knew what they were doing, and they did it well. And I was I was impressed with that. Now, I would never write that because it's just not the way that I write. I don't write about, maybe I will someday, but at the present, I guess I just don't write about, heroes saving the world. But when you're making a big summer blockbuster movie, I think in a way you become trapped by your own success. I think Brad Pitt has to save the world. It's kind of like, Mel Brooks has to be funny. I don't think the movie would have done as well had Brad Pitt wandered around the world with a microphone talking to people. I think once Brad Pitt decided to star in the movie, that brought with it a whole set of rules. So the truth is, and I know I would love to be the author criticizing the movie. I would love to be that guy. Ah, they ruined it. They ruined it. It's a sin. How dare they? But the truth is, I wrote my book. They made their movie. They're two completely different things. And I think they have two different audiences. So I'm in no position to criticize them.
And it gives you a lot of money. So that's kind of cool.
Well, it's not about the money. And anybody who's a real writer understands that. It's about people reading your work. And this is something that Stephen King reminded me of. He said, because of this movie, no matter what the movie turns out to be, more people will be reading your book than would have otherwise. And that's important as a writer. You want people to read your work. And so, because of this movie, more people are reading my book. Because the thing with money is, I don't know about in this country, but in my country, there's better ways to make money than to be a writer. You know, if I was in it for the money, I wouldn't become a writer if my goal was to get rich. If my goal was to get rich, I'd work on Wall Street and rob people for a living. That's what I would do. There's many other professions where the money comes in not just bigger, but more consistently than in the world of art. So please, that's money.
But it's way cooler to be an artist than to be a robber.
Tell that to the robbers. Please, you work on Wall Street and nobody writes bad criticism about you. You know, when you work on Wall Street, they're such sociopaths, they don't care. I mean, I don't know about cooler, because I suddenly didn't become a writer to be cool. I became a writer because I didn't have a choice. I didn't choose writing. Writing chose me. This is what I have to do. If I didn't make any money, I would support my family some other way, but I would still be writing. I've been writing since I was 12. That was not a conscious choice. Maybe some people do become writers as a choice, but I was not one of them.
And speaking of writings, would you like to try comic books or different types of writing?
It's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've actually been writing comic books for some time.
Yeah?
Yes.
Comic books.
Okay. We had a graphic adaptation of Zombie Survival Guide called Zombie Survival Guide Recorded Attacks. That was my first foray into comics. And then I wrote for G.I. Joe. And it was called G.I. Joe Hearts and Minds. And it was, once again, it was weird. Because I'm a weird guy and I can only write what my heart tells me to write. And instead of a story, it was 10 stories, little stories. And it was just a day in the life of each character. And it was sort of a psychological study of them. What makes them want to be what they are? What is their history, or how do they go about their day? For example, the character of Major Blood, I always wondered, why would someone be a mercenary? Why would someone fight for money, kill for money? So I wrote a story of him and his family, where he comes from a long line of men who have lost their jobs. And he had to watch his grandfather have his farm taken away. And he had to watch his father lose his job. And that for me was very important because it spoke to the Great Depression in my country, and it spoke to a generation of men who lost their manhood because they couldn't provide. And so my character, Major Blood, made the decision, I will always provide, no matter what I have to do. I will always take care of my family. So that was G.I. Joe. And now I'm doing a comic book called The Extinction Parade, which is a zombie outbreak told through the eyes of vampires. And that's officially what it's about, but unofficially what it's really about, to me, is the study of privilege. It's the study of what you lose when you are given everything. Because I truly believe that most people's successes come from their early failures or their early weaknesses. And we as a species are a perfect example. We are a weak species. We are not very strong or fast. We do not have claws or fangs. We are not natural apex predators. We're kind of mid-level omnivores. And in compensating for that, we developed a survival mechanism, which is unmatched in this planet. But what if there's another species that's up here, been given everything? The aristocracy. Could they survive if their one food source is being eaten out from under them? Could they adapt? Could they organize? Could they prioritize? Could they do all the things we as humans just do now as second nature? And that's the point of Extinction Parade, because I really want to talk about the dangers of privilege.
Okay. And who's editing it?
It's through Avatar Comics.
Oh, that's why, because we don't get Avatar.
But you're going to get it from Panini next year.
Okay.
It's coming through Panini.
Okay, cool.
And I have another comic book, a graphic novel, which is coming out in April. And that's a true story. That's not zombies, vampires, science fiction. That's from the First World War. And it's the very true story of a fictionalized version of a true story of a unit of American soldiers who were set up to fail in the First World War by their own government. The American government did not want these American soldiers to help us win that war because their skin was black. And so as a result, they were humiliated, they were degraded, they were sabotaged, and ultimately they were given to the French army, because the French army by this point had been so bled white. They said, we'll take anybody that can carry a rifle. And also the French army had had such success with their black African troops that they thought, well, maybe all black soldiers can fight this well, and brought them on. They called them the Black Orphans. And then these Americans became some of the most decorated soldiers in the entire US Army. The first American to win the French Croix de Guerre was one of them. They stopped the Germans from taking Paris. At one point during the Kaiser's offensive in 1918, there was nothing between the Germans and Paris but these guys in this sector. And this is a story I've wanted to tell for a long time.
So the story is going to be in Paris?
No, the story's going to be in the front lines. The story's going to be in France, in the trenches. It starts in America, it ends in France, of black Americans fighting alongside white French troops.
Okay. And who's writing it?
Well, that is going to be through Random House, but I don't have a French publisher yet.
The guy,
The artist.
The artist is amazing, and he's the star, because I firmly believe when you do comics, the artist is the star of the show. And he is Kanan White. He is the star of a show called Uber, a comic book called Uber. He's a brilliant, brilliant artist. His attention to detail is just, wow. It's unbelievable. So if you ever read it, if it gets published in French, and if you read it, the credit should go to Kanan White.
Sounds like you're a wrestling unit, yeah?
All good?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Thank you, Max.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.